Okay, guess I'm alive on the wondrous midheaven. Middle Heaven Radio. Oh boy. No, I'd probably call it Middle Next Level. Little Next Level Radio. A little part of it. Well, I've got to go back to my Facebook page and announce my intentions. Okay, sorry, I just left the post and I was thinking about it. Well, I see I've got 2 individuals watching. So that's 4 eyes, wow. Wouldn't it be neat if our eyes could do different things? Totally different focuses? Anyway, being silly. Which silly Al is sometimes. Tendo used the drawl a little bit sometimes, and well, they always had a little drawl. Drawl, is that what you call it? Was that the Northerners trying to rank out the Southerners? By making it sound like drool or something? Okay, well, all kidding aside, well, no, not necessarily. There's nothing wrong with a little kidding around. When it's not to anybody else's expense, that would be the next level way of having jokes and fun, and that it wouldn't be on someone else's back, I guess, you know. Anyway, even though, you know, in the human kingdom, it's you know, fair play. Anything goes sometimes. Anyway, so I put a new screen up here. And I thought I'd explain it, but actually I want to add another. I didn't realize actually I had this blank spot here. I want to add another picture, and I don't think I can do it live, can I? Well, I don't really want to take the time to do that now. Well, I'll just describe it anyway. I'll especially describe it when I get to the second picture from the left over. That first picture is a rendition that Allodi drew to Tiando's specifications before T left the vehicle, and of what an older member of the next level might look like. This was close to what a member of the next level would look like. And so their head is a little bit enlarged. They have a little bit, they don't have big ears, but they have some ears. There's probably humans walking around that have a head that big sometimes, It would be unusual, I think. It wouldn't be the normal development, but a very small nose and a little mouth. And they thought that members of the next level would have vocal cords, but they didn't need to use them, but they could use them if they wanted to. And I don't know. It makes me wonder: do they retain language? If they learn a human language, do they retain that? I don't see why it couldn't be. But Tiando didn't actually talk about it that way, so I don't know for sure. But the way they talked about it was that well, just if you needed to have language, but they, like, for instance, if they did a task, let's say, they talked about, let's say they talked about going to Earth and giving a message to somebody. So they have physical bodies, but they're able to come in a spacecraft really close. I don't know how close they have to come before they can. They float down, I guess, because that's the way Jesus went up. He floated down. I'm adding a little, context from what the records say about Jesus being able to defy gravity on several occasions, or 2 occasions, I guess, that I know about. And anyway, so then they come in and they take over a human vehicle, okay? But that's a task to do, and that vehicle was prepared by giving it a tag so that the next level members on the spacecrafts were watching that vehicle grow up, and maybe even tagging. Oh, maybe that's how it happened. Maybe they even tagged the egg. See, Tiando didn't say how. This said in the 20s they came, they were tagged. Their vehicles were tagged. That didn't mean they came then. They said, it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have someone in their crew, because they don't do everything. That's what the fun of it is working for your older member, and it's just, it's such a great, it's a great feeling to work for your older member. You just, there's nothing human between you, you know, and so, and there's nothing ugly, and there's nothing evil or nothing negative even. And it's not easy, actually. I didn't know how to act when I did a task or two with Doe by just me and him. We went to maybe it was a clothing store. I don't remember now, because you can tell I don't remember because the whole time I was like, you know, self-conscious. Not that he made me feel that way. You know, he didn't ever say anything. He didn't ever criticize. I mean, certainly not. Well, I don't know that he would. He might, if I did something, you know, crazy, he might feel to say something about it right away. like what's up, Soyoti? You know, he might say something like that. You know, I mean, I can't. I shouldn't be expanding from what my actual memories are, because now that's how I can also dilute it. I might not be diluting it, but maybe I am diluting it. But I'm just seeking to try to duplicate the feeling. So let me give you a real example, I guess. Well, well, that's what I was doing, actually. So, I was leading into the story of how my older members came, our older members came. And for whoever who considers them our, then we're all talking then, I guess. Maybe, I hope so. You know, no, that's not true, actually. I'm being spiritual about it, you know. And that's, I mean, you know, fine to think about it that way. It makes sense that it is, but I'm not a spokesman, so I am a witness. I'm one of the two's witnesses. I never heard them call themselves that. So maybe I should get on to something else. Yeah, let's go back to I probably left some loose ends there. I know I do all the time. People have learned to bear with me or tune me out, whatever the case may be. Like Gene Scott used to say that Doe liked, am I boring you? Because we watched Gene Scott. We watched a lot of evangelists in the 90s. We had no, for the 80s well, 87, till 87 we had no biblical teachings. I mean, except for one time, Doe opened the Bible to Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. And T didn't come to that meeting because he told us that the woman in that verse was T. And you know, that brings up the thing of that it says in that verse, the woman is clothed with the sun, and the moon is under her feet. So that's saying, so in that instance, the Father is the sun, and the sun is the moon, the greater light and the lesser light on the planet, and the moon under her feet means that it's the footstool, that he's the footstool using the earth. So Do is providing the footstool so that humans can take a step up into the next level. Because feet actually is footstool in different interpretations. And, well, actually most of them, well, no, it depends on how it was used. I don't know, it's not the same as feet, but I got to go and research that again, but I can do it right now. Let's see here. How do I do that? Oh, yes. I'm not fast at this. But there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go to Revelation. Oh, I gotta actually do that, of course. Because I didn't know I was going to be talking about that. That's the way I go. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven. Okay, and that should show up. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Okay, now you should see it if it's not, if the video is working properly. Verify that. It hasn't updated here yet. Okay. Still in Revelation 14. Alright, so maybe that's not going to work. Let me just look it up, and then I'll moon under her feet. Actually, the primary word, a foot. Okay, figuratively or literally, footstool. Foot or footstool. So that's, the word is pous, P-O-U-S, or pous is the way you say it. And Strong's Concordance and Greek Dictionary. So, so now I went through all that. Into every nation, kindred, and tongue, and people. Anyway, so that's the only thing only time that Do actually, that we actually had any, you know, a Bible little session with Do that one time when T didn't come to that meeting, like I said before. And so I'm going to switch back over to my other screen because I want to talk about that some more. Hopefully that'll come through. But until it does, I'll see if there's anything in the chat room. All right, well, I'll just talk about that big square object that was at that was taken up. Scott Waring found it, or I don't know, you know, someone sent it to him. but and and it was just a picture of the sun. I don't know if anybody's seen the sun through the SOHO satellite, but a number of sites on YouTube are doing all kinds of work with that. You're probably all aware of it, but if you haven't been, then you might look it up because it's pretty phenomenal, actually. And I've been following Scott's work for a number of years now, so I have a lot of confidence in what he's doing, that he's actually showing real things. Now, of course, Jesus said that a sign of his return would be the signs in the heavens, in the sun and the moon and in the earth, which makes me think, of course, someone could say, well, I thought you said that Jesus did return already. He was in a vehicle named Doe. But that wasn't Jesus, actually. And because Jesus was the name of the vehicle that Doe took and birthed into the kingdom as a next level vehicle. He changed it over through a metamorphosis by his changing over to make his eye single only to his older member, and willing to lose his life. Through that process of dealing with the negativity and everything that was thrown at him, and helping the students, he actually stimulated. He went through a metamorphosis that was completed at the time of the Transfiguration Mount, where perhaps he got something next level, maybe gave him something to, I don't know, they gave him something because he glowed. He glowed, like they said, like the sun, kind of. And that wasn't the description, but I forgot what the description was exactly, but it was bright. And there were two other individuals there that the disciples, James and Peter and John, thought were Moses and Elijah. And they said that to Jesus after they were coming down, because while they were up there, they also saw Jesus talking with those two individuals, and were communicating. I mean, and then they heard a voice that said, "This is my son, who I am well pleased." So that would indicate that the Father wasn't one of those two that came, although it could have been, because the Father could have done both those things, probably, even as two different people. It's hard to imagine, right? It's kind of, but Doe said that T could operate more than one vehicle. So she didn't need to bring all her mind with her to do this task. And that she designed the very things she was frustrated with. So it was ironic, how fast the classroom was growing, how it was moving. And she wanted to get out of there. But that's just the nature also of an older member. They want to do their task as quickly as possible, but by doing it to please their older member, to their older member standards, because they formed that bond with their older member when their older member ushered them into the next level, however that happened. It doesn't necessarily happen the same way, but I don't have any other examples but the earth one. I just know that the gardens grow differently. Different life forms on them. And well, I do know that Tian Do said that In 1976, they said this in an actual classroom in the University of Laramie. And for those of you who have come to hear me talk a number of times, I'm sorry that I keep on repeating myself, but I don't have a way to know whether everybody is the same person and keep track of that. And so anyway, if you're starting to, or you already love the next level, then in whatever way that is, then I think any stories about the next level to me are candy to my my mouth, and then the work comes when the negativity hits, which so far I've been pretty filtered from, or guarded from. But I know it won't always be that way. So anyway, we take advantage of it right now. And so this object is square, and it's estimated to be the size of the Earth. And it's bright. It's bright like the sun. It's like, you took a piece of the sun and you put it in this object. And but maybe even a different kind of brightness. I don't know, because the SOHO satellite has ways to filter out the sun's rays, so you might not even be able to see this if they didn't turn the sun off, so to speak, because of how close to the sun it was. Yeah, I think you wouldn't be able to, because I know the sun blinds us, and they have this little thing on the in the front of the camera, I believe, that that blocks the lens from seeing certain I guess humans have come a long way, that's for sure, fast. I'm fascinated by the science, all the technology. I'm not. I mean, T was actually. She didn't like it here. She said that the trees don't even grow straight. Like in Texas, with the oaks that are all crooked. She said that was because of what has happened on this planet with the Luciferians taking over. They're so negative about the next level's existence, and so fighting against it, that their vibration is putting, is like squashing growth. It's like a sickness. It's a disease. It's like a weed also that takes over and doesn't have any care for what it's killing. Those examples are actually good on a spiritual level, and it all translates also to the physical level. The way that Tiendo talked about how spirit, like discarnates, which they initially just called influences, but we understood were discarnates, but we always, when we talked about them, when Tiendo talked about them, he talked about them as influences. So those influences, are programs from having lived in a human vehicle. So if they have ailments, well, then when they do have ailments in their body, that is saved in that genetic database grown out of that body, that flesh, and mind, the mind of the vehicle that's accumulating constantly with all our experiences. So, but all experiences, a pain in your stomach, I had bad digestion recently, but you don't want to know about that. But though that vibration, when they are influencing another human, depending on how strong that influence is, I think there's a certain amount of influence. I don't know that we get that much more of a spirit. I don't know. I don't know what. Well, it has to kind of match. My understanding is that it has to kind of match the things that the person wants to do. Is already programmed to like and dislike through growing up, and because Tiendo said that what we are is the chooser. We make the decisions on what we're going to do and what we're going to say and what we're going to not do and what we're going to not say and all that, and how we're going to respond to everything. So that's where we are. That's not a little thing. That's a big thing. But that's not every thought we have. Influences can put thoughts in our head, or even feelings in our head, or in our consciousness, or stimulate our. If they can stimulate our memories, which I don't know if they do that because they influence us, so they have some effect on us that has us draw to them. We can be more drawn to that activity that they want to use us for. I don't know how they. It's like it's like. And it's like I think actually there can be a number of influences that can. Well, I do know that from Tiendo talking about it, how it's like when somebody that's attracted a lot of attention and they got famous, and like a president, or doesn't have to be that famous, but a lot of people know them and look up to them, and. That individual actually has accumulated a number of influences that were all helping that individual do things, and to build him up, because that's what they want to do, and so they're attracted to the people that are up and moving up in the ranks. In whatever way, even though it might be down in the ranks from other people's perspective. Like moving up towards the White House, to me, is a lesser choice, a far lesser choice than the only choice I think that's better than, that's as good as, that's worse than that, is no choice at all. So and Jesus taught that He hoped that you would be hot or cold. Because lukewarm, he said, he spits you out of his mouth. Spew you out of his mouth. I guess that's. Because the next level works hard to give us the opportunity, so that's our free will. And so, I guess they hope that everybody will take notice. And I think the reason why cold is okay, I mean not okay, it's why that's a choice to be totally cold to the next level, is because then the next level can take advantage of your coldness by building the next lesson step to help others get to that same place, just because they're always improving. Not that they have to see certain results before they improve. They don't. They try to improve regardless of whether they get results that show that improvement. But that might, if they don't show improvement, then they'll still be trying other things, because it's an experiment. Tiendo said that right from the beginning. And what's an experiment about it is that they don't know how it's going to come out in terms of how many people are going to respond favorably to their next level presence and grow towards them. Because it's always a choice. Every step is a choice. And Tiendo had to prod us sometimes because we weren't asking enough, and we weren't. But asking is also associated with applying what they already gave us. So they would give us a lesson step of, okay, now it's time to not allow any thoughts of sexuality in your head. Sensuality and sexuality were different in the sense that crying is a form of letting out your senses, letting your senses express yourself. And but a little bit of crying for joy, because you recognize your older member's mind, that was an appropriate kind of crying, and so crying could be the same kind of thing as somebody that can't stand to not masturbate. It can actually have the same kind of emotional connection, and so the next level was, since the overcoming is also to overcome all mammalian behavior, which is behavior that has to do with the flesh emotions. Crying usually means that somebody is sad about something, and because they got hurt, either physically or mentally, and it devastated them, and I've cried. I know, you can feel. When my first significant relationship with a woman was the woman I joined the group with, actually, when she went off and left me in the apple orchard where we were picking apples, and she went back to Canada. I remember crying in that tent. I remember trying to play the flute, and I couldn't get anything out of it. I didn't have enough wind to. Anyway, but whatever it's worth, in the next level in the classroom, if somebody was repeatedly crying, Tiendo would want to know what's on their minds and what's happening. And one student I know felt like she felt so pressured to get everything right that she started hitting herself in the head, and she was getting headaches I don't know, from hitting herself in the head. Maybe she was hitting herself pretty hard. I don't know. Like in the bathroom. And that was Leanne, and she was on one of the documentaries. I'm sorry that that was her lesson step to try to overcome. And for whatever reason, she left the classroom, same way I did. Maybe with the same kind of feeling that she didn't know why. Maybe she didn't, ask for help to get help with that problem. The same way I didn't ask for help when the sexuality problem came upon me suddenly out of the blue. It seemed like, even though I can. I had 17 years of not even touching myself. I had some nocturnal emissions that I didn't think I was stimulating. So the only stimulus I had was the little ways I would cheat, by looking down the blouse of a classmate, which wasn't easy to do. But it seems like not even that. You could just look at them, look at the back of their neck or something, and see a little hair. That can stimulate your libido. And I remember I was a little bit stimulated when some of the females would bend down in my view with their back to me, so that they're, when we were in the campgrounds where we bend down all the time, if we were gathering wood, we would have to bend down to pick up sticks and stuff. And I remember, like my eyes would just go to that whenever that was happening. I could be doing something else, and all of a sudden I'd look right at the time when someone was bending over. And that's the programming of these vehicles. And the spirits that were using these vehicles, they try to make that happen. And so that's where that's where the radar comes from. I suspect Tien Do didn't get that specific about it that I ever heard. But they did say that they were aware of how they would be walking behind somebody in the mall, and they would see them suddenly turn their head and look backwards. A person. I'm not saying more than one person, but one person. And so when they did that, they looked to where they were, to where that person was looking, and would see someone that, the average person might think that was an attractive woman. And they gave that example of like the kind of radar that we have, and they talked about it as a root system, actually, that you can't see. Part of that, but they also said that thoughts were real, so they had frequency, and you could leave them places. You can deposit a thought on a box of cereal in the grocery store when you buy it. But it depends on how strong your thought is, how much imprint it could potentially make, I think, upon the person that's coming down the aisle, and it might not be looking for that, so they're not necessarily going to be attracted to that. But then again, depending on if everything is kind of right, I guess, then maybe they could just go to it, because members of the class shared I forgot where they said it, or if Doe described it, I'm forgetting sometimes where I heard some things or I know some things from, but that you know what? I think I'm going to take that as a signal that I'm going to get on with something else. Yeah, back to that square. Because a couple people on Scott Waring's YouTube site which I can give people the address for, so you can see the picture. Let me do that. So, New Jerusalem is what somebody else said at Scott Waring's site, and two people actually, and I don't see why not. I mean, even if it was a complete fabrication, it's somebody that put it together. Could have been stimulated by the next level to put it together. You know what I mean? So, but I don't think it is a fabrication because I don't think the next level would let that happen. So I take back what I said because even thinking about it as a fabrication is kind of ridiculous. Because why would Tian Do work against themselves? Because then if someone found out about it, then they would. They'd have more evidence, potentially, of how it was fabricated. Because I'm not saying, you know, it's not that hard to fabricate something like that. I mean, you can fabricate the whole sun, you know, but we've been watching it for a long time now. So I'm not going to, I can't go with everything's fake either. You know, that whole perspective is another dead end. So I look at it as, okay, this is really happening. I've seen a lot of objects in the sun, you know, through several different people over a lot of time, and I've had a number of people play with the filters and play with the hazes, take the haze off, and you know, and do all kinds of things. You try to enhance the brightness of it to get the shape of it, but this picture that Scott Waring was posting, he shows it as a globe. You see the sun, you know, with blocked out the sun part, you know, the light part of it. So you see all that turbulent energy, and then he right above it, at the top of it, actually, it looked like it was kind of like on the top. Right, the very top. This object was, and that reminds me. But then he had to take that object and then blow it up, expand it, and but he didn't have to expand it that much to actually see that it was square. And then expand it to the picture that I've got that's, you know, that he also took some of the some shading away from, or some haze away from. That's what he said in his software. But he showed it to us before he did that, and it didn't take away from. Well, it did take away from it. I'd rather have him do nothing to it, to change. He just wanted to enhance the shape to show that it was a square on a seemingly square on four sides, but with kind of like an arc in one side. So not a perfect square, even though you can't see that one side that well. But that's even, more, that it's not an actual geometric shape that I don't know if we have in our arsenal. They probably have everything under the sun. An arc combined with a square. But because that all comes from the next level anyway, so it's really no surprise that, but he took it as proof that it was aliens, and I can see why, because we don't have anything like that in nature that we're aware of that's so definitively changing directions when it grows. Is that what that says? I don't know. I don't know if I'm thinking about it correctly. But anyway, so okay, the New Jerusalem, they said in Revelation 21, I think it is, was going to be 1,360 miles approximately. That's what I calculated. I may be a little bit wrong there. Square. I'll go to it. Maybe a little faster this time. Let's see. Okay, so it's, well, I don't know how long it's going to take to get through, but yeah, it hasn't come through yet. So I'll just start with it anyway. Revelation 21:1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. Now that passing away also is shown in Revelation chapter 6 as the heaven being removed like a scroll away from the earth. And that's and there was no more sea then when that happens too. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned with her husband. And so that's so Jerusalem always meant the overcomers, the city of God, the city of the overcomers. And the city this time around is the Western United States. That's the size of the city this time. And that's the way New Jerusalem was described, as being about 1,300 square miles. Because Tiendou saw, they taught that the United States was entirely prepared to be the location where the next level came. North America, but the part where we are. And well, not we are, because some people might be listening to this where part where I am. So, and that's why it was the melting pot. And Jesus actually said that he wasn't coming back. They weren't going to see him in Jerusalem until they might see him as unless they see somebody representing him. I think is what he said. And Doe went to Israel, but I don't think he went to Jerusalem. I think he went to Haifa. He did that after I left the group, even though he talked about it while I was still in the group and thought about it. He thought about taking the whole class there. He thought about inviting all the parents to, when we were in the John Wayne house in California, inviting all the parents to come spend some time with us. But he didn't feel to put that into motion. I remember I was a little bit excited about that idea. But I had this crazy notion that if I ever went back to do a task, though, that I would want to talk to my high school people that I graduated with. I was just thinking, I was in touch with my high school reunion people when I got out of the group, and they have a reunion every year, and I never go to it. And you know, they have the 10th and the 20th and the 30th and 40th and whatever. Of course, I missed all those, but maybe I have to go do that. Yuck. That's no fun to think about, but maybe I do. Anyway, but enough about me. So the New Jerusalem, I was going to get to the place where talking about the size of it. But I mean, all the verses are very interesting. That this seems to be 1,000 years after well, let me think a second about that. Because if the heaven is removed during the sixth seal, would that make the sixth seal? I got to re-examine some things, but as far as timing goes. But so I don't know exactly when this is going to come to be, but it's, I think there's well, I don't want to get into predicting dates, but I mean, there's a number of ways to look at it, but it's a short time. It's not going to be a long, long time. It's not going to be like 1,000 years. But by the time you get to the sixth seal, I mean, Teodoro originally said that it would happen within the lifetimes of those that were in middle age when they came. So, to me, that would apply to now as well. That, you know, they would have been taking probably, and the next level doesn't, I mean, I don't know that. I can't, they said that. So, I mean, if you want to count it from when people were middle-aged, when they first came public, now that doesn't make any sense because a lot of people didn't know about them. So you'd have to count it from when they made their biggest splash as being people that saw that were in the middle age, so in their 30s and 40s, I guess. And then, you know, anybody that's younger than that is part of that, or older than that is part of that. Would, not older than that, but younger than that would see it. So that means if you were born, if that's true, then if you were born in 1997, and if that was the start of the second hour, no. Yeah, that would be the start of the second hour, and an hour is 40 years, then 1997 to 1937, I guess. It's 1937, I wonder if that would be, or it could be more, that might be how far it is to, there's no way for me to know, so it's kind of stupid actually to think about it. But to where the spot where the kings of the earth are going to be running into the under the ground, the rocks of the earth in the mountains. They're going to go in the mountains and in the rocks, and because there's a huge earthquake that happens right at that spot, that time, and I might as well go over to it. Revelation 6. I haven't gone into this one before. Oh, I have been in 6, but not to the end of it. Much. Okay, so this is after those that choose to give their life for Tiendo. This is when most of those, well, that can continue past this point, but it's talked about as in the fifth seal opening. I guess since I said that, I should read that. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God, and for the testimony which they held. So God in that context is Tiendo, because they're talking about And for the testimony which they held, that was mostly given 2,000 years ago, when those same souls were sent out. I think that might be, because there's an "and" in there, and the way the next level designs prophecy, those can be separated by a lot of time. And it would make sense that because if they say slain for the word of God, that already says it's the testimony. Because why would they be slain if they weren't speaking the word of God? So that's the current word of God, and for the testimony which they held, or let me see if that word "held" has another meaning or not. Echo, the testimony which they have, they be, need, to have, to hold, hold in the hand in the sense of wearing, to wear, to have hold possession of the mind refers to agitating emotions, to hold fast, the testimony they hold fast. Well, that could be the two witnesses' testimony too, and just saying it in two different ways. Well, I don't know why I'm kind of going through that so intricately, because it doesn't make any difference. It's souls that are giving themselves totally to the next level's will, and if that finds them, getting bumped off because of that, then even though they're not going to look forward to that. Well, unless they really, probably not going to look forward to it, because I don't think Tian Do looks forward to it. They used to talk about it, and they said that they hoped it would be thorough, so that they didn't wake up a vegetable. Yeah, but that didn't happen because it was mostly ignored and, of course, made into a laughingstock. So the fifth seal is under the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes that were then given to every one of them. And it was said unto them, they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So white robes, that means they're getting next level vehicles. That's what a white robe would be. It won't, I don't think it would be the same kind of vehicle that the 28 plus get. Because they're, for different tasks, there's different vehicles, and I guess different functions of the vehicles, different service that those vehicles can offer, different capabilities, different. Like one of them might be locking and unlocking whatever the next level does to keep the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls and whatever human equivalent vehicles they are using locked up underground or under the sea. Under the sea might have actually meant under the, really deep in the earth. Or I guess, it could be a cave under the sea. They recently found, I think, things like that. That for some reason don't flood, I guess, because of, I don't know how that works. But, so, and so they rest for a little season until fellow servants also and their brethren. Okay, so that's like breaking them into 3 groups. And rest yet for a little season until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed or as they were should be fulfilled. I wonder how long a little season is. I know I got a little hint of it in another spot, but I'm not going to go there right now, even though it's kind of... Well, a season, I believe, is... I don't know. I can't remember Doe talking about it. He talked about an age being 2,000 years. So they're not saying age here. Let me actually see what that word, what else it says about that word. Time, either long or short. So it could be just a little time, and so it's undetermined amount of time. I'm just trying to figure out whether it's that 1,000 years or not. But I don't think so. It's 1,000 years because when Lucifer's locked up, I think that's in sync with when Jesus comes back and actually locks him up. And at the same time as he does that, relatively speaking, he is when the beast goes into the lake of fire in Revelation 19. So that's when Jesus comes back here, and right after that, after the beast is taken and cast into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone, which sounds like a volcano to me. The way it throws stones around and the ash and the radioactive stuff, and I don't know if there's radioactive stuff or not, but and the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. So the fowls in this case, I believe, are the space alien souls are filled with the flesh. That might be like a little rapture. Those said at one point that we could see a Luciferian rapture, like with a hologram of, I guess, Jesus. The way people are thinking about him, a lot of Christians. And the next level, maybe they would do that, and they would take those vehicles and use those vehicles for sperm and eggs and blood, even. Maybe even keep them alive, somewhere. I don't know what's possible in that. I don't know how many the next level would allow that to happen to. And they may think they're in heaven, because that's what they believed when they at the time, that was going to happen to them. Because the space aliens are not, probably not cruel. Like Lucifer was not he was an advanced soul, and so he was kind. And gentle. I think, or he would never have got into the next level at all. And just so happens he was also very shrewd. And T said that they were, because of him and the ones that fell with him, that the bar was going to be raised on getting into the next level to that degree, to be like a watcher and have a task of watching, observing only, not actually changing anything, doing anything, not interfacing with the people. That's what they did. They interfaced with the people on the earth, according to Enoch. When they were just supposed to observe them. And I'm sure, report what their observations were, because that would be a next level away. Even if the next level didn't ask for that, it would be, to do any task, we were taught that we want our older members to know about it, what we did and said, so that if we did do something that wasn't what they would do, they would tell us, and then we'd grow from that, have more experience of what our older members would do. It's not for their ego that happens. It's because the students want that to happen, and I experienced that. I felt that way when Doe would give us an instruction. I mean, we had instruction also to read it back to him, so that but we didn't do that forever. And I wasn't very good at reading it back. Exactly. But Doe felt like I got the intention pretty well. Well, let me put it this way. Not got the intention pretty well. That I got the intention. He didn't harp on me, repeating myself over and over. But then again, maybe he was just being tolerant of me, and he was just hoping that I got it. So maybe I didn't get it that well. I thought of myself as having a pretty good handle on procedure. And I think my mind was never quick, but I think I was able to. Anyway, I don't need to keep on going down that silly road. But is the gate still open? Actually, I should go to the first one first. Alan made a video about Book of Daniel and its connections with Book of Revelation. Oh, wow. Okay. I'll make a video about it. Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had somebody that was really good at making videos and talking and everything without, going into everything I go. Well, then it would be just like everybody else, right? And I wouldn't be putting enough nose mind in it, so I'm correcting myself at the moment. I'm kind of like an open book with my mind when I'm doing these. I'm not hiding much. I'm not hiding anything, but I'm not, I'm not having strategy as I go. Yeah, I keep on thinking to do that. The book of Daniel was very hard for me. It took me a long time to go through those verses. But you know what? If there's no more questions, then let's go through some of that for the remaining time after we talk about what V's question was. Since that's going to take a while. Well, this could take a while too, but is the gate still open? The short answer is yes. According to Doe, the gate's still open. And I need to go to the place, I need to find the place where he says that, and I believe it's in the exit videos. Maybe Last Chance. I always get mixed up between the ones that were made in 1996 and then the one he made recently, where he said that he even described how if some felt after they left that they wanted to be with them, that they should try to go to the Southwest United States. Let me make sure I get this right. And plead with their Heavenly Father, the highest source they can reach, actually. Plead with the highest source they can reach to determine whether this is right for them to do. And then if it is right for them to do, the next level will give them the help to know that it's okay for them to do. And they said if it couldn't be the Southwest, that was okay, but didn't specify any more than that, I don't believe. And so he didn't actually, he also said there would be a brief period of time when people could leave with us. Okay, but that also brief period of time was in next level thinking. And so just like the recycling was going to happen very soon. And the spading and the recycling, talked about it in different ways. The spading being more like when even the weeds were pulled up from the garden. Even the weeds would even be assisting one another, assisting the next level in pulling up the weeds by oars and stuff. And and the way you talked about it was leaving with us for that short period of time, that the next level's a short period of time, is an hour is a short period of time, and that's 40 years in the human kingdom. Okay, and Doe talked about that relationship of time that actually starts it's in the Bible, not what an hour is, actually, but what Jesus talked in terms of hours. okay, on the clock. But that I don't believe was a literal human hour, because a day is like 1,000 years. And a day to them is like 1,000 years to the next level, because just like, with an insect, their life is very short compared to the human kingdom. And it's the same kind of, I'm not saying it's an equivalent distance away. It might be, actually, a human lifetime of, at the most 120 years, pretty much. Well, and compared to the next level, they don't have an end to their lifetime. So I guess I said it in enough ways. I'm sorry, I'm beating a dead horse here. No, I shouldn't. That's not. I don't like that expression, beating a dead horse. Who would want to do that? I'm wearing it out. So, let me think if there's anything else they said about that. Well, the fact that they said that besides the time period that can be short, like other references to time periods that Tiendo made were, they said that the next level vehicles, once they complete their metamorphosis, are able to heal, because they're not a next level vehicle if they were a human vehicle before they're not, when they're a human vehicle with a soul in it, the vehicle doesn't go through a metamorphosis until that soul takes control of that vehicle and uses it for its task, which sets into motion enough of the changes internally to that vehicle, even biologically, so that it can change into a next level vehicle, and with the help of the next level, all along the way. Getting off the track. Can I get back on it? I was still on a time frame example of 3.5 years being, of 3.5 days, T said, was a time period, literally, human days, that it takes to recover, to convert a vehicle from death to life, whatever degree of death it was. And, I don't know what it would have measured on the oscilloscope, but in cycles per second. But so other time periods that they gave were, an age was 2,000 years, and an hour was 40 years in human time. So, but there was an hour, see, in Revelation 11, I didn't know I was going to get this deep into that one question, but I hope Alan's not upset about it. If you have to go or something, I can guess put this on hold since you are first. But if you don't say anything, then I'm going to keep on going with this for a few more minutes. Revelation 11, towards the end there, it says, okay, so right after they leave, says here, Revelation 11:12, And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So a cloud was always a way of using, it's actually in the Hebrew, the word that I forgot was used for it, meant covering. A covering. The next level is undercover. Whenever they come with their physical bodies, whether it's invisibly or whether with a cloud covering them up. And their spacecrafts can even make cloud happen. Like a cloud of light, like led them through the wilderness and at night with a light of some sort that they had, according to the Talmud, which I don't doubt that what they said about that in that, but since I'm over in Revelation 11 anyway, and so this ascension is when they're actually rising up. So those are the souls that left those vehicles with the Heaven's Gate group. And those 38 plus the 4 that left right after them, I would believe were all among them. If there's anybody else that left that I don't know about at that time, there could have been, I just don't know about it. And, they maybe didn't leave a note that was related to the Heaven's Gate group. So I wouldn't know if there were more. But, so the voice was actually a disclosure. Phone. It's like ET phone home. It's okay to go ahead with the plan. And that's what Doe was waiting for, that confirmation from T to actually put it into motion. I mean, he had put it into motion for 3 years. Ever since before I left. It was in motion, starting in August of 1994. And he talked about it 3 times before I left, in 3 different ways, to the 3 different groups of people, actually. But the last 2 times were to the same group of people, all the students. But it was only the last time we talked about it in September of 1994 that he described the process of drinking or taking a strong barbiturate that would basically put our vehicles to sleep permanently, kill our vehicles. He didn't say, he said I think that's what he said. Can't actually hear his exact words at that moment. But I was I was in a fallen condition to begin with, so I said I had no reservations, but there was a part of me that was discombobulated. I mean, that's where my mind would have been had I not flunked a test that was given to me. So a sound or a tone is also the voice, this word. So I heard a great sound, or great voice, or great, okay, I heard the mind from heaven, it's the idea of disclosure. I heard the mind from heaven, heaven is Oranos. So that doesn't have to be in person, it didn't have to be T right there. It's at the elevator areas above the earth, from the sky to the distant heavens. Come up hither. So that was like that instruction, okay. And they ascended, which is actually the word rise, I believe. Ascended up. Click on that. I see the up is anabino. Come, enter, arise, rise up. Mount, be born up, to use that way sometimes. And that's what it was, exactly. It was the birth of spirit that Jesus said was going to happened when they came back in flesh bodies, born of water, in order to be born of spirit. And he compared spirit to the wind. That you knew it existed, but you couldn't see it, where it was coming from, where it was going to. Which was one of the clues that I took, in addition to what Tian-Do taught, that a spirit birth is a vehicle that can be invisible. And then Jesus demonstrated that to his disciples when he went to the upper room after he had gone back to the spacecraft to see his older member. And then he came back and then that's when he appeared to the 11. And that's when he demonstrated, anyway, I won't keep on going to that because I've done it before, and it's not necessary at this point, I don't think, to keep on with this. Let's see. Well, I guess I already kind of showed that, I just want to finish this thing with the hour, I guess. Because Revelation 11:13 said, "And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and a tenth part of the city fell. And in the earthquake was slain of men 7,000. And the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven." Now, so I believe this is actually depicting what happened in the United States, starting with the 2000 election, when the Supreme Court came in and ruled that Florida was not to count, actually ruling that another Supreme Court was going to reverse their decision to recount the Florida vote, at least in certain districts. That was an enormous breach of state sovereignty. Anyway, so that was a coup d'etat, in my opinion. And that started Bush into office, G.W. Bush, and which is a continuation of the Bush dynasty, because that's a bloodline there. That, you know, David Icke helped me trace it. And I can't believe everything he told me. You know, not helped me by what he was talking about it. That I saw in a video or read about. Anyway, so anyway, but going up into the cloud also means that we don't know what they're rising up into, because we just don't know where they're going. It's but a cloud of light, a comet could be seen as a cloud of light with its tail dragging behind them. And they just have a big light trail. That's a light trail that's behind them. So they are clouds of light. And I believe, makes sense to me. So I could go through this verse. It would probably take me another hour to really go through this properly. But the part that I wanted to go through was, "And the same hour was there a great earthquake." Okay, so the same hour as the ascension. And I determined that I think the ascension was the end of the 40-year period when Tian-Do started. So that was from 1947 to 57 to 1997 to 2007. Is that right? 57 would be 97, right? Because the next level doesn't do things in the same way in all the structures, because the other seals, I mean the other trumpet soundings, I'm going into other areas now, but you see, I was trying to back engineer everything on these prophecies by what I did know. Since I know that the next level left in 1997, that was definitely an end of something, and it didn't seem. And yet, the Roswell thing was 1947. That's when they took their bodies. That's when they deposited the bodies that they had, and killed them, sacrificed them, which is depicted, I believe, in Revelation 4 or 5. Threw them down, like they had done with Jesus, but by somebody else's hand. But that Jesus even demonstrated. Then that was the lesson step then. And then they ended up getting next level vehicles, and then coming back down, and giving the evidence of extraterrestrials to the humans. Because they dissected the bodies and they saw they were made differently, different structures, different organs, and so that would be 50 years to the. But see, I kind of started to think that 2013 was the start of the second hour. But it might not be. It might be. Well, because actually, right, because they were frightened and they gave glory to God of heaven. Excuse me. In 2001, if that was the World Trade Center, the city fell, which is the first, I believe, the first fall of Babylon, and the 10th has to do with, I believe, the 10 tribes of Israel, the souls, and those were the ones that they were comprised of the Israelites. See, the Israelites, when Moses died, and they went into the Promised Land, where they are now, including Jerusalem, they had a split a while after that. I don't remember how many years it was, but I think it was hundreds of years. Under King David, I believe. Anyway, and so when David died, that's when Solomon, his son, came to power. And there was a split right after that, but there was already forming because they were already eating sacrificed animals that were sacrificed on the altar. And some of them weren't supposed to be eaten. And because the next level wanted to give them that instruction, because the next level knew it would be hard for them to follow. And it would even be, like practical, our people are hungry, we need to eat certain, where other animals were able to be eaten by the priests. Or maybe not eaten, but used I believe it was eaten, some of them. And if I'm getting any of this wrong, I hope somebody listening, if they learn about it later or something, brings it to my attention so that I can correct it. Because I know I'm not real good on this. I might have been reaching a little bit when I was, but generally I was trying to be objective about it, and I did a lot of asking for help from the next level to see things, but sometimes it just took me forever. I could spend 2 weeks on one verse, and every day working, for 8 or 10 hours, or more. But so I forgot when I went there over to the Old Testament now. Oh, I was talking about cloud of light and how it was going to be a hidden departure. And you got the the hour, where I'm still talking about that because I thought it was from the 40s from the 60s to the 2000s was the 40 years. Or it could have been the 70s to the 2010s, That's actually probably more right. Because Tiendo always said they came in the 70s, in the early 70s. So that makes, and go to 2010, and then there was a 3-year distance between when they started showing the signs in the heavens, 2013. I think that's right. I think that's right. I mean, that sounds the most right so far. So 1973 to 2013 is the 40 years. That was the first hour. The hour finished. So I mean, some people could interpret that to mean that was the short time that Do intended to where people could leave and still go with him, and that may be true. That may be true. That because when he said go with him, it meant it was open-ended on purpose, because there were more souls that were going to be reaped in this harvest. The next level doesn't just do things in a casual way. It doesn't have a lot of benefit for all their plants and all their souls that they deposit. For everybody, the whole kingdom was to be accelerated. So, so it's a very easy case, especially when you include the prophecy of the fifth, where those souls are being given white vehicles to wear. Because Tiendo talked about next level vehicles as clothing. Really early on, before I knew any of these scriptures, and they said that that actually, when you look at it in the scripture, the meaning of it was you were wrapping around. The soul was wrapping around your vehicle, the physical vehicle. And Tiendo talked about it as extending outside your body. I've talked about that before, like two balloons inside a glass vase, and one of you're trying to fill with next level mind, that's a soul, and the other one you're trying to empty of the human mind, which is the misinformation mind, which is nothing wrong with it, but it's misinformation that it's the end was the greatest it can be. That can be found in the human kingdom, because it's not at all true. There's nothing in the human kingdom that can't be found greater than the next level, than even the beginning of the next level. mean, not that there's not good things in the human kingdom, but those came from those characteristics, even down to the animal kingdom, came from the next level, because they put it in the code. You can even take the thing what T said about how the trees that were growing so crooked in Texas, and she says because of how deep, or how the lower forces had. Well, I said that before, but in case somebody just came into the talk here. So they were growing crooked. The trees were growing crooked. Where if it was growing the way the next level designed them, they would all be growing straight, I guess. It's like they're diseased, little diseases, and same thing with human vehicles. If they take on things can be done to the vehicles that, of course, deteriorate the vehicles faster in certain ways. Of course, all the pharmaceuticals. They have their purpose and they have their use, and they save a lot of people. They give people a lot longer to live, and sometimes with a lot less pain, and so they all have their benefits. But overall, they're actually destroying the vehicle in ways at the same time, and creating all kinds of health problems and addictions to other drugs in order to avoid those symptoms of those other health problems. When in the next level taught that you would know them when they came back because they would heal the sick. Well, I can actually participate in that healing through my older member in what they gave us with the Transfiguration diet. And that's available for anybody to look up on the web, and you can find where it's being sold. It's not by me. The group we sold it to the son of Dr. Christopher, who stimulated the diet, and then he put a new cover on it. So it's not the cover I've held up a few times during these broadcasts anymore, but it's the same information because I bought one. I had one that was the original one. I got from Pam Odie, actually. And where was I before I went down that road? Yeah, because this earthquake in Revelation 11:13 is the 7,000 there is talking about the 7 tribes, I think, or the 7. The 7 tribes, I guess. I had some other ideas about that. Oh, well, maybe there's other ways to look at these. There always is with the next level, I tell you. So I'm not going to go through that right now because I have to think about it more. But and the remnant were frightened. Uh, and I certainly was, and I was one of the ones that was the remnant. Because remnant means the remaining ones. And that's everybody who was frightened, not just me. But I mean, there was other ways that the next level talked about the remnant being those souls that were brought here, because that's who they're most concerned about, and that's who they're talking about this whole time. So it's relative to them, and not that everybody weren't frightened by that, thrown into fear, terrified. Yes, it certainly was terrifying. I was 30 miles away, and I played in a benefit concert for firemen in Smithtown. Playing music to that, that's kind of stupid, wasn't it? I don't know. People need to. It's hard, right? Anyway, but so that, anyway, earthquake in that context was actually shaking. It's seismos, a shaking, a commotion, a tempest, an earthquake. So and actually, I did see a report that they were able to pick up seismic vibrations from the falling of those two towers. I guess that could have happened in different ways. Could have been like a bomb or something. The next level just knew it was going to be something big, because they were holding it back. So they know that they're always that the powers that be, they stimulate wars all the time. It's actually the rule more than the like in World War II, they put an embargo on the Japanese, and so they were going to be limited in their steel, and so that was provoking them to not that the Japanese didn't do something ahead of that, by trying to take over another island somewhere. It's both sides of the coin, but then they supposedly sent a bunch of their junker ships there, but they didn't then give any notice to the sailors. At least that's what some people are saying happened there. I wouldn't doubt that, because we know Hitler stimulated the Reichstag bombing and blamed it on the Polish, so that he could go to Poland and take over there. And so the actual in 1997 was when the what was the name of that committee? Rebuilding America's Defenses was the name of the document that was written, with signatories of Cheney, and I think Wolfowitz wrote it. I might be wrong on some of that, Mr. Wolfowitz. And I think he's the head of the World Bank now, or the IMF or something. Maybe I may have that wrong, but he was the signatory with a number of people, maybe Rumsfeld as well, and but Bush wasn't on it. I don't believe. They were called the committee was the Progress for a New American Century, and they signed that. They wrote that document in 1997 that said that we need to rebuild America's defenses so that we could fight a two-front war, and that we we might need a Pearl Harbor kind of event in order to rally around it. And so they felt justified in doing that because they know that they've got their time is short, because the Luciferians know their time is short, and relative to the next level's lifespan, and the Luciferians they grow new vehicles, and so that's what so they got. They're only thinking about their immediate lifespan. The next level doesn't have to think about that at all, and so they use humans as much as possible to try to get them to advance their technology. So then they made sure to it that they were going to win that election, one way or another, and then however they did it. They stimulate, the CIA stimulated Osama bin Laden coming to, having some power, more than, by getting him to enlist the people from the Mujahideen, to fight against the Russians in the proxy war. So it's like the whole thing was, who knows what, the whole truth is, but they certainly stand it down. I mean, there's so much evidence that and the way the towers came down, and Building 7 came down as well by the same way, but yet it was demolished, because they said because it was on fire, when the fire was only small, on one little spot on it. I think Building 7 was the command center where Giuliani was. So these individuals are not playing with a full deck, and they're not playing with what they want to accomplish. So people are collateral damage. That's what what's her name said about the 500,000 people that the Red Cross reported, the children that died because of the embargo on Iraq. This is an evil country, and it's not the only country that's evil. But it didn't start that way, because the next level came here and made sure that they didn't have that power to give in to the Luciferians, space alien, fallen angel souls. So, because Tian-Do taught that the next level was holding back what's happening now, with the escalation of, all the shootings in the streets and stadiums and everywhere, and the way the authoritarianism is growing, especially what it started with the 9/11 thing. And so that was, that's talked about right there in Revelation 6, the red horse is the war horse, And then going into Iraq, which they planned that even before the Afghanistan thing. There were people that were unhappy that the first Bush didn't go all the way to Baghdad. So these are individuals that are the tares in the Bible. In what Jesus said, there was that the Luciferians were going to sow the seeds, that the tares that will look just like the wheat, and you want and the next level didn't want to pull up the wheat too soon, because you didn't want to disturb the roots of the wheat. You didn't want to pull the tares up too soon because of disturbing the wheat. And so that's why the tares still exist, because there's still wheat to be harvested. Even though most of the wheat or barley which is what was talked about in Revelation 6 as that these won't be hurt. And that seems to not be hurt seems to last until the fourth, for that time period, until the fourth seal is opened, which is where we are right now. And so I guess at this time the wheat and the barley can be hurt, physically and mentally. In other words, they can make advancements in, I think it'll be gradual, and I don't know how gradual, because the next level knows there's a lot of people out there that are thirsty for this information. Even though I only have 2 listeners right now, it doesn't matter. It's there's going to be more. Maybe not to listen to me in person, or on the video, but they don't have to listen to me to be connected to Tiendo, of course not. But so if you take the combination of all the people that are paying attention to things that Tiendo said, and before I was doing these broadcasts, I did spend more time. Well, actually I was wasting some of my time watching movies and stuff. So this is better use of my time for the next level than doing that. No matter how many people are continuing to listen to me. 1 is enough, as far as I'm concerned. It's hard to talk to nobody, talk with nobody, or not that I'm talking with anybody except for the little chat questions. So, well, should I get over to Daniel? Did I dot enough I's with this? Because I know there's a lot of open doors. You have to go into different things. I guess I'll just, I don't know if I have the energy to go into Daniel, but I guess I should try a little bit if Alan's still here. Yeah, I'll do that. Say Daniel. I think I want to start at 7, or maybe 12. Or which one? I think I want to start with the 2 witnesses evidence. I think that's in 12, if I remember correctly. No, that was the one where Michael stands up. Yeah, let's just do that. That is the 2 witnesses also. But it's not really... Oh, yes, it was. Okay, good. So I'm just going to start with Daniel 12:1. I see it hasn't updated on your screen yet. I think I changed it on my other... Yeah, I did. So I guess my video settings are terrible right now. I got to fix that. I got to put it on my list here of things to do. Just for 4 seconds or less, to the key frame. And currently is 8.3. Okay. I don't think I can set that on the fly as I'm broadcasting. I mean, yeah. All right. So Daniel 1:12:1 is I mean, we see Michael is standing up. Okay. Now I can go through the previous chapter. I think does show that he's talking about an end time. Not upcoming. Anyway, but and it shows that how Michael relates to Revelation 12:1, not 12:1, Revelation 12, which talks about Michael shall stand up. So there's a direct relationship there to that time period. And Michael stood up actually after T left her vehicle. That was Michael standing up, I believe. Because before that, well, he was standing up with T too, so I don't know that I can. Well, let me look down here a second, because it says that knowledge would be increased, and this was not going to be understood. He was told to shut up from writing. And then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood shut up the words, yeah. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. This is Daniel 12:5. So he saw two, and one on this side. I should actually look at this in. If I look at it in a simpler form before they added a bunch of words to try to make it into sentences, it's really beneficial to see it in, so I can look at each, see which words were added. Even though sometimes, most of the time, they're probably adding them for a really good reason. I don't doubt that. There it is. I wish I could put two screens on my little thing. Maybe I can find a way to, I don't know if I can do that. But, what am I doing? Oh yeah, that's right, I wanted, I'm sorry, I got lost. So the words that are in here are Daniel looked, stood, other two. Hinder to. Hinder to. Huh. Like come hinder? Come here? Ah, okay. Generally, next, other man, following. Following to. Next to. It can even be next. A lot of those words can work. I think. So stood next to. Now, it wouldn't be next to because, well, it would be even if it was the father. But this was relative to being the end times. Everything has to be taken in context. One side of the bank, river, other side of bank, river. So the river is the I think is the human branches, the human trunk, or the human branch that's, I guess, going through the Middle East into Europe, into the United States, that direction. I would think, although who knows how many connections there are to that branch, coming in from other ways. But maybe even India would be where that branch is coming from. Who knows? Maybe there's more than one that kind of parallel some ways. But anyway, so that's the river, I think. Mind. It's the human kingdom mind. And the bank is the word through the idea of termination, the lip, the boundary. Oh, okay. The boundaries around that river. By implication, language. By analogy, a margin, a vessel, water, a cloth, a band of some sort, a bank, a binding, a border, brim, brink, edge, language, lip, prating, shore, side, speech, talk. The one I like the best for this, I think, is border, which would be like, in other words, the countries that around that river. And that would be the United States and England, and all the English-speaking countries would certainly be part of that. But not necessarily, not just English. I mean, no, I'm not like, trying to elevate people that speak English. The Next Level has been preparing the strains so that they could be here with a match for Next Level members. So they had. So it's natural that the strains would follow the direction that they took. It's just that's just the way it's designed, and there's really no differences between us ethnically or color, genderly, or color-wise, or and the way that the Next Level mixes everything up by taking advantage of the wars that spread people away from the lands where the wars are. They become refugees, and it's from them that they get to have experiences with other languages, other cultures, so they can tap into what they weren't experiencing in whatever land they were in. It's just, that's all just the way the garden grows, I believe. So it's, but it talks about these two that are standing on these borders of these lands that are around this river, and the geography. So then it says, and said, they put in one in brackets. Really, in this software, I guess they're adding words that in brackets that they just added to make it readable. Where the other ones, they're feeling more correct to adapt to the language because of, you know, all the different forms of Hebrew. There are all kinds of modes, and so I didn't study those. So I'm not going to say that some of the words that they put in that I didn't read aren't proper to be there. But so and said to the man clothed in linen. So one said to man clothed in linen, which upon the waters of the river, linen upon the waters of the river, okay, identifying that person again. How long shall it be to, how long to the end of these wonders? And wonder is actually miracles, marvelous things, which T being with Doe said was a miracle, or my OBS studio just disconnected and reconnected again. Back on there on Daniel. So how long for these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen. So linen is a garment. Now, linen was, I believe, in the sense of divided fibers. To divide. Be solitary, alone. Oh, okay, huh. To divide. Oh, I'm not sure about that, with that. But the fact that he's clothed means that he's got a vehicle. A human vehicle. And, well, maybe not, okay? I'm not saying not at this point that he's talking about it, but, well, let's see. Yeah, they're standing, that's right. The other two are standing. So that means abide, dwelling, residing with. In the Hebrew, it means abide, behind, appoint, arise, cease, confirm, continue, dwell, be employed, endure, establish, leave, make, ordain. So a lot of those words work there. Raise up, they're doing that. Repair the damage that the Luciferians did, yep. They're doing all these things. A lot of these things, anyway. Confirming the existence of the next level. I mean, maybe I can, of course, maybe I can say it to every word. I can't to every word. I know that. I don't think. Yuck. Well, so be it. Whatever. Let's see. So he's clothed in linen. So that's describing the clothing. Or linen clothed. It'd be the same thing. It'd be describing the clothing. So the sense of divided fibers. Bad is the word, actually, in Hebrew. Bad. So he's clothed bad. Maybe that's a human vehicle he's wearing. Because that would be relative to the next level, the fallen condition of having, been the result of Adam's breaking of the next level's instruction. Adam and Eve's breaking of the instruction. So isn't it interesting that Eve was the one that influenced Adam? And even though T and Do said that, well, I only remember Do saying it, that that Adam first missing of the mark was wanting a helpmate, wanting was loneliness, or not being satisfied just being alone with his older member, wherever his older member was. I don't think his older member was necessarily visible. I don't think he was. But Adam knew that his older member was there and could see him. That's why he hid after he broke the procedure. And so that started the first deceit. In relationship to the next level, which was part of the experiment. The next level didn't know that was going to happen, but if he didn't fall, they would have tried something else. Because they wanted to grow new souls that were going to be able to overcome the Luciferian influence, see through it. So that's why they provided the what they called the serpent, which who knows what that that could have been a reptilian human, although he wasn't, well, I don't know. He might have looked like that if he was underground for a long time before that. He might have, started to take on the characteristics of his eyes changing and whatever. Who knows? There could be a backwards evolution like that. I mean, Doe said that Adam went through a reverse metamorphosis. He said it didn't take very long. So then the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters, and I want to move it over here so I can see whether the stream is still working and there's anybody in it. Okay, I'm down to one person. Yeah, it's getting late. Can't do this every night, right? Maybe not somebody that does it every night, the people that left. I heard the man clothed in linen upon the waters of the river. So in other words, the humans that are attached to that flow, part of that flow, that are creating that flow in the spirit world, because it strains up his right hand. So up his right hand would be bring up, exalt his right hand. Oh, okay. That's taking, his right hand would be his up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven. Up his right hand and his left hand to heaven. Oh, okay. So his right hand person who's going to be, that's T maybe being talked about as T. And, that definition of linen might be that a linen garment was a better garment. It was more what the kings wore, I believe. And be solitary, being of one mind, be alone, be of one mind. The whole body is filled with light. So that goes back to Revelation 12:1. What Jesus said about make your eyes single, your whole body is filled with light. And so anyway, but swear by him that liveth forever. Oh, so that's T. So this is Do with the right hand being those students that were his right hand. And his left hand up to heaven, meaning he was relating to T in the heavens. When he's standing up, during the time that he's standing up. So T is in the heavens at that time. When Michael actually comes in. Well, then Michael is Do, but he's standing up as the captain of angels that he was before the Jesus experiment, but that was continuing on from that. I mean, the Jesus part of the steps, the trimester, the second trimester. And that should be a time, times, and a half a time to accomplish the scattering, the power of the holy people. Right, so that's the 3.5 years, 1,260 days, perhaps. Times, and half is like saying 1, 2, and a half. 1 plus 2 plus a half. 1 time plus 2 times plus half time. And I guess that 2 could actually be more than that, but at the least it would be 2. So that's a total of 3.5. And if you take the 1,240 days, I think it was 40 or 60. I'm getting that mixed up with that 1,340 or 60 in my head. 1,240 days that was listed as the time that the 2 would be prophesying, which was 1973, January 1st, 1973 to mid-June or early June 1976. Give or take a little bit, because you can start before January 1st, 73, but Tiendo made a point to say that it was on New Year's Eve of 1973 that they were carrying the furniture that they were getting rid of out of the place where they were renting. And it was upstairs. And they said they felt like they had next level helpers carry that piano down the stairs. And they left and they went to Bern, and that's where they, for 6 weeks, lived in a ranch house in Texas, in the hill country, very near where we later moved and spent a lot of time in camping, near the Cave Without a Name, and where they received the chunks of information that they had come from the next level, and that the kingdom of heaven, and that they were here to bring updates to the Bible and to fulfill prophecy. And they didn't know what prophecy they were fulfilling, so they started out from Bern, and they traveled for months back and forth across the country, meeting people and studying everything they could get their hands on that would tell them what prophecy they were supposed to fulfill. And there was some months later that they ended up in Gold Beach, Oregon, on the Rogue River, and they were camping, and they were making, they were selling painted rocks. They would paint rocks off the beach and sell them to tourists, and for tips or whatever it was, and other things, I guess. Selling stones, though, right? Because actually, if you built your house on them, you'd be building it on a rock. Which it wasn't building their church on Peter, the way the Christians and the Catholics think of it. I don't believe. I think what was marvelous to Jesus was that he saw his older member's mind coming through Peter, and it said flesh and bone didn't reveal that to you, and that he was the Messiah, and that upon that rock of his recognizing his older member's mind, he was building his church, his believers. And so Peter was just the first one that was depicted there in that circumstance that stimulated that conversation. The others were also rocks, because it says that the other, there were 12 actual rocks, because they're talked about as the pillars of the New Jerusalem. And pillars are stone. So Peter was probably one of them, but then to make statues of Peter is totally off the track. Make statues of anybody is totally off the track. Because that was one of the things that they were told not to do. Make graven images. Have false idols that don't live, that aren't living, that are made with man's hands. All those things were said in the Old Testament. But they had started to do that, who knows when. But the Catholics started to do it. So scattering the power of the holy people I think is in Revelation 12 also. Is it a coincidence that this is chapter 12 of Daniel or not? Because let me look at Revelation 12 again, because I think it said at the end of it that the dragon was scattered the power of the holy. I guess I better go look. Look at the end. Well, of course, while I'm here, well, lest I forget what I'm doing. And the dragon was wroth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. We already talked about the remaining here, right? Anyway, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. See, that's two things there. Keeping the commandments of God is one set of experiences that a group of souls have, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ shows that they were also incarnate then. The remnant of her seed. The remaining of her seed. That's not the same spot that I was thinking about in regards to this Daniel. The power to scatter, the power of the holy people shall be finished. Well, finished actually means to, it's a primitive root, to end. So the power of the holy people to end. In other words, that scattering can happen a number of times, I believe. I know it happened to Tiendo right when the press came out, and with Walter Cronkite, and that we got to Chicago, and because of the press and knowing that somebody had infiltrated the group, Tiendo split us up into groups. We were, I was estimating we were in the 70s at that point in our numbers, but I don't know for sure. Because how many people came from the Colorado meetings? And, well, 12, then 34, which was 46. 46, 46, another 12, 56. Yeah, it might have been close to 70. Anyway, when we were in Chicago and they split us up, and we were at Chain of Lakes camping areas, and they came to our camp, Tiendo did, and said that someone had infiltrated the group that wasn't a believer or wasn't here to, what did he say? What did they say? That wasn't trying to join the process, I guess. I forgot how they said it exactly. But, and that because of the press, they thought it'd be too easy to, for the authorities to, take note of us in a big group. So they wanted to split up, and so they scattered our power. And it's a primitive word, it means hand. So the hand was scattered, the open one, in distinction from, in a great variety of applications, both literally and figuratively, both process, remote, it is able, about, enabled, about, armholes, that axle tree, because of beside, border, bounty, broad, or plus broad, so hand abroad, hand abroad, handed, charge, coast. Gave them a charge. They did. They gave us a charge to go hold meetings. Continue what they had started, which we had just finished Colorado, by holding like maybe 4 or 5, at least 4 simultaneous meetings in 4 different cities. And so that's at least right now how I think of that. But there's also an indication that in Revelation 13, I think of a scattering. Let me go to that and look. It's after the, see at one point, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So at some point there's going to be like a takeover of big talk from the United States. Great things, interesting. It's not like it looks like a Trump. We're going to make America great again. And blasphemies, saying that it's God's will and stuff like that. Which I never heard him say those exact words, but I did hear him reference God when he was talking to the evangelist people. So he is using that term as if he's a Christian. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So that would be 3.5 years again. But 40 could actually be talked about differently, and I've talked about this in a previous live stream. But it could be like the 40 years, and that it's a 40 and 2 affirmation periods. So that might be, he might be able to have that mouth for that long, even though it might be in different humans or that mouth. Because it's the mouth of the dragon. It's the mouth for the dragon's power. Because if it was just for 3.5 years, they wouldn't have said it that way. They would have said it as 1,260 days. They would have counted in days like they did with the prophecy period, and a few other examples of that, and where they use days in a hundreds, like that number. I don't think it's any accident that 40 is considered to be an hour, and 40 is used a lot of times, for the fasting period or the time in the wilderness, because that's what, even though we're in the wilderness then for over 40 years, but previous hour as well, to the one that started in the 70s. I guess started in the 20s, so that was 50 years to the 70s. But I remember thinking that I'm just thinking about the timeline again, and I'm not going to go there right now because it's always a puzzle, because the next level doesn't do it in one pattern. They don't like stick to, I mean, there's certain things they do stick to the patterns on with the 7, the way the 7 is used a lot, but it has a meaning of saying something 7 times to take an oath on something, to make a commitment on something, or to reach a goal, to quit smoking. If you say it to yourself 7 times in a row, and because that came from the Old Testament, when you were taking an oath in the Old Testament in the Moses camp. So let's see here. Let's see, where should I go back to now? Well, let's go back to, let's see. So after that's finished, well, see, it says they scattered the power of the holy people. So in a sense, they scattered the power of the holy people again when Do was taken out, T and Do were taken out of the news, or Do and the crew. The power that they demonstrated there was then scattered abroad. It was not covered by the mainstream anymore, except in little tiny ways. So, and that happened as a result of Michael standing up. He was the right hand of the man clothed in linen. Of T. So I think that's depicting T there too. That makes sense. So there's a bunch of evidence on the 2 witnesses being talked about by Daniel. And I don't know if I want to go any further. I think I want to bring it to a close tonight. If somebody's got any questions of the 2 individuals that are still watching, there's nothing to watch anymore, I know that. But listening, I'm willing to take some questions. It talks about many who may be purified, so now they're talking about Revelation, the 5th seal time, where it says they're made white. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. The wise shall understand. Wise are the ones that are also considering what T and Do are talking about, or experts in what T and Do are talking about, instructed in what T and Do are, prospering, prudent, teaching, understanding, wisdom, behave self, consider, make wise. Because that, when we're sharing T and Do's information, we are instruments of wisdom and their teachings. And so we're, it becomes teaching for somebody else, but it's not the same as being the teacher of us, because we're all really just the same. We're all the same. We're just that this vehicle had the experience, so I get to talk about it and explain it relative to the experience. And then it's up to each individual how fast they grow, because just talking about it doesn't really make me grow necessarily. It's changing behaviors in ways that, and serving the next level does help me grow. Yes, it does. Because I get lessons. I get attacked by, discarnates. I have my own influences, and they're not necessarily any different than anybody else's. But there's probably a few different ones than the average person, because I'm trying to serve the highest beings that were ever on the planet. It's like, and the Luciferians don't like it, and they know about it. They know when it's being done. Well, I don't know if they can hear, but I wouldn't, put them past. I don't know if they care what I say. I don't think they follow me around. I think they got better things to do. But my booger might come around once in a while, and that was one of the Luciferian space aliens, according to Doe. NT, because they started that terminology and that idea that we were assigned the booger while T was still in her vehicle. And then it says, at the time that the daily sacrifice, I thought I was going to stop, right? At the time that the daily sacrifice, this is Daniel 12:11. At the time that the daily sacrifice away, the only words here that are, it says, and from the time the daily shall be taken away, the daily shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, 1,290 days. 1,290 days. Now, see, now this sounds like the same period of time, maybe, of this 40 and 2 months. So maybe it is days. The daily sacrifice. What is daily? Where did they get sacrifice from? Root meaning to stretch. From the time stretch, aha. Properly continuance. From the time continuance, better look at time first. Time is time. After always certain, evening, long, due season, just season by itself. Oh yeah, season, that's interesting. So long as even, evening, noon tide, eventide or evening tide or noontide. Mealtime, meal what? Meal what? Oh boy. I don't know why that's in double parens. Oh, evening meal, I guess. Meal, evening, no, I don't know. Time, oh, okay, that's another time. And when. So that's why I can put when in there, I guess. And So when it's taken away, because away is to turn off. Or to be, or to bring. The daily bring. Call back, decline. So it's not just away, though. Take away. If it's bring, the daily, when the daily sacrifice is brought, when the abomination of desolation is set up, which is when they're released from the bottomless pit, I guess. And but when they're released is not when they're set up necessarily. And when they're set up is when they're appointed to act, or ascribed, or added, or applied. Abomination of desolate applied, assigned, avenged, caused. Which you could look at that probably in a lot of ways, relative to Tian-Do and what's happening now. And so I'm starting to get exhausted. But anyways, blessed are those who, because that time period could be like when they were shot down by the press. But, you know, it's like, in some ways, what I'm doing is like playing the game of astrology. You know, but I have an end result that I already have in my head. And so it can be wrong, but you know, it's, but it could be right also. And there's many cases where it's not as hard as this. You know, the revelations are easier for me. Well, they weren't that easy though. But then it says, but go thy way till the end, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of days. So, so the abomination of desolation, because Jesus talked about that too. He said, go stand in a holy place, or flee to the mountains. So if that was the 9/11 event, because that was desolation means destruction. It's to stun, to devastate, make amazed, be astonied, astonish, desolate, made waste, lay waste, lie waste, make waste, destroy. So that's what, so the destruction is talked about in the Revelations too, and but the abomination means disgusting, filthy. Well, then the translator added some words, but then it was abominable, filth, idol, idolation, detestable thing. So, you know, like worshiping money, working for money, you know, as one's God, not just to, you know, making it their God because, you know, they'll do anything for money and they'll lie and cheat for it, whatever, and, you know, kill people for it and all that. That's the abomination of it. The money itself isn't evil. It's what it's used for. And the next level wants us to have nice things. They just don't want us to desire them because they want us to overcome being pleased by having nice things, because in the next level, they have nice things. I mean, they live in, you know, I'm sure they're like temple-like, you know, without all the, you know, simple, but, you know, sophisticated and, of course, technically out of this world. So I'm going to have to look at this again. I don't really have time to do it, but at least took a stab at Daniel 12. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to say good night to whoever is still listening to me, because the videos died a long time ago. Good night.